The lights flicker once, then settle into a dull hum, the kind of sound that makes your chest feel hollow if you are alone long enough. After midnight, buildings are no longer just buildings. They breathe, they remember. Footsteps echo longer than they should. Shadows stretch where no one stands, and silence presses against the ears until your own thoughts feel too loud. Janitors know this world better than anyone. While the rest of society sleeps, they walk corridors soaked in yesterday's emotions, tragedies, anger, and grief. They clean stains that tell stories. They unlock doors most people never notice, and sometimes they witness things that shake their faith, their courage, and their sense of reality. These are not just disturbing true janitor horror stories meant to frighten you into looking over your shoulder. Inside the fear live lessons about dignity, unseen strength, and the kind of resilience that grows quietly in the dark. Lessons that remind us that even the most overlooked lives carry deep purpose. One night, in a large city hospital where the smell of disinfectant never quite masked the scent of sorrow, a janitor named Miguel began his shift like he had for years. He pushed his cart down empty hallways, the wheels squeaking softly, the overhead lights dimmed to half power. The third floor had been closed for renovation, or so the administration said, and no one was supposed to be there. Yet every night at exactly 2:17 a.m., the call bell from room 312 rang. At first, Miguel laughed it off, blaming old wiring. Hospitals were full of strange noises, but the bell rang again the next night. And the next. Always 2:17. Always room 312. Soon came the footsteps, slow and dragging, following him when he mopped, stopping when he froze. His heart would pound so hard he could hear it over the hum of the lights. One night, hands trembling, he opened the door to room 312. The room was empty except for a wheelchair facing the window, rocking slightly as if someone had just stood up. Later, hospital records revealed that an elderly man had died alone in that room years ago, pressing the call bell repeatedly while no one came. Instead, he began speaking softly as he worked, greeting the rooms, offering prayers for the forgotten, whispering to the empty air that no one should be alone. After weeks of this, the bell stopped ringing. Fear taught him something powerful. Being unseen does not mean being insignificant. In another part of the world, a school janitor in a small English town locked up classrooms every evening after students left. One winter night, long after the halls were empty, he heard children laughing, the sound echoing down the corridor. Thinking it was teenagers sneaking in, he followed the noise, calling out warnings. The laughter grew louder, then suddenly stopped. Classrooms were empty, chairs were neatly tucked in, chalkboards were clean, except for small handprints smeared across the black surface, far too small to belong to any teenager. Night after night, the laughter returned, sometimes accompanied by the sound of running feet. Fear gnawed at him, making his hands shake as he turned keys in locks. Instead of giving in to panic, he began praying quietly before each shift, asking for protection and strength. Over time, the laughter faded, the handprints disappeared, and the school returned to silence. Fear tested him, but faith became his shield. Not all protection is visible, and not all battles are fought with fists or weapons. Sometimes, belief is what keeps the darkness at bay. There was an abandoned theater downtown, boarded up and forgotten, where a janitor was hired to clean debris left by vandals. The place felt wrong from the moment he stepped inside. Old posters peeled from the walls, mirrors cracked and clouded with age, costumes left hanging like empty skins. He joked loudly to mask his unease, mocking the props, laughing at the broken mirrors. One mirror, however, showed something it shouldn't have. Flashes of past performances. Then screams, then a terrible silence. Fazer stared back at him, eyes hollow with regret. Panicking, he dropped his mop and ran. The next day, forced to return, he approached the mirror differently. He apologized out loud, treated the space gently, cleaned carefully instead of mockingly. The visions stopped. Respect, he learned, is not just for people. When we disregard history, pain, or the weight of a place, we invite consequences. Respect can be a form of protection. A quiet acknowledgement that not everything exists for our amusement. Deep underground, a subway janitor worked the night shift, cleaning platforms long after the last train passed. He often saw a tall shadow at the end of the tunnel, unmoving, watching. Each time he blinked, it seemed closer. Terror wrapped around his chest, but quitting wasn't an option. He had a family to feed. Night after night, he kept cleaning, hands shaking, heart racing, refusing to run. One evening, the shadow appeared again, darker and closer than ever. He stood his ground, whispering to himself that fear would not control him. The shadow dissolved into the tunnel walls and never returned. Courage didn't arrive suddenly. It grew slowly, built through routine, persistence, and the decision to keep going even when every instinct screamed to flee. At a large university, lockers began slamming shut at night, echoing through empty hallways. Security found nothing. Cameras showed nothing. The janitor working nights grew tired of the noise, the constant tension. Instead of anger, he tried something unexpected. He left small candies on a bench, with a note that read, "For whoever is here, I hope you're okay." That night, the lockers slammed once more, then stopped forever. Some darkness feeds on hostility, on fear and anger. Kindness can disarm what force cannot. Even in horror, compassion carries surprising power. In an old factory scheduled for demolition, a janitor ignored whispers he heard while sweeping, assuming it was the wind through broken windows. One night, a clear voice spoke his name, warning him to leave. He listened. Moments after stepping outside, a gas line exploded, destroying part of the building. Horror saved his life because he chose to listen. Sometimes intuition, those quiet warnings we dismiss, are the difference between survival and tragedy. A church janitor worked alone late at night, polishing pews under dim candlelight. Every evening, he saw a figure kneeling near the altar, head bowed, silently weeping. Fear tempted him to quit, but instead he cleaned more carefully, treating the space with reverence, whispering prayers as he worked. One night, the figure looked up, smiled sadly, and vanished. Purpose transformed fear into meaning. When we see our work as sacred, even the frightening becomes bearable. In a prison with a violent past, a janitor cleaned cell blocks after lockdown. Shadows clung to corners. Whispers echoed from empty cells. Yet nothing ever touched him. Former inmates later said his calm presence brought peace, that his quiet greetings made them feel human again. Light leaves a mark, even where darkness feels permanent. These disturbing true janitor horror stories reveal something deeper than fear. They show ordinary people facing extraordinary darkness and choosing dignity, courage, faith, kindness, and purpose instead of surrender. If you feel unseen, if you walk through silent hallways of your own life carrying burdens no one acknowledges, remember that your presence matters. Your compassion matters. May you be protected in places where fear waits, strengthened when courage feels thin, and surrounded by light even when shadows stretch long, and may God watch over every quiet worker, every unseen soul, granting peace to the forgotten, courage to the afraid, and hope that does not fade in the dark. Amen.